Hello, everyone. My name is Claus Grotrian, and I have the pleasure to guide you through the next approximately half hour, maybe a little more. Um, this is a live event, obviously, and we have announced it some time ago. And we have received some questions for the Ask Me Anything session here. And of course, we're going to answer them as well as we can in the next half an hour or so. And also, during this session, you can ask questions. I have a guidance on how to do that in a couple of minutes. Okay, so let me just briefly tell you a little bit about myself so you know who is this guy sitting here. A lot of you guys joining us from Denmark know us. We've been, Prosapia has been recruiting for the last approximately 19 years. In fact, 19 at the end of this month. And we're working primarily in the Danish marketplace, but also solving assignments in Sweden, Finland, Estonia, and Switzerland. I myself, I've been approximately 27 and a half years in the SAP ecosystem. First 8.5 years with SAP, and since, as I said, since 2005, heading Prosapia, which I founded, and operating it still today. So that's what gives me the background to sit here and have an opinion about what's going on in the marketplace. And also in our daily work, we also conduct a lot of career advice for specialists and managers on all levels. You can see my LinkedIn profile if you haven't already joined me, but feel free to do so. Okay, so we have a lot to cover, so let me just tell you about a little bit about the structure. First, there's a lot of questions that pertain to, so what's going on in the marketplace? What's the demand? What's hot? And so on. And of course, I want to tell you what that could be, but I also want to provide a little bit of background so you know why this is the case, because it gives you hopefully an understanding of market trends and demands. Then, of course, we're going to answer the questions we received prior to this session. And as I said, feel free to ask questions during this session, and we'll answer them as well as we can. In order to ask us questions, we have created a small page all on our homepage. It's called prosapia.net/AMA. And on that page, you can see the instructions on how to ask questions. Primarily, you're going to ask the questions to my colleague, Jesper Olsen, either by sending him an email or sending him a LinkedIn message as indicated at the top of the page. Then, moving on, I think we'll jump into it and provide you with a little bit of background. So here on Prosapia, we continuously try to tell the market how we see things. And my latest update on the Nordic SAP job market, which is the area we know best, that was in November. And one of the key numbers, key indicators that I observe is the thing on LinkedIn where you can indicate whether you, as an individual, are open to new opportunities. And that's a setting that is available only for the viewers are recruiters, not people in your own company, obviously. So that's an indication of how demand matches offerings. So, and for the last approximately 1.5 years, we have observed an increase in supply to the market because for the Danish market, and I base my numbers in this regard on the Danish market, we have normally a baseline of around 700 that are continuously open to new opportunities. Then as I said, over the last approximately 1.5 years, the number has gone up. That means that more people are open to opportunities. That could be due to any number of reasons. Unemployment, although that's the minority. It can also be, people are dissatisfied. You know the drill. And in the November update, that's a video, by the way, that you can also check on our LinkedIn page. I I said, look, I expect the number to decrease because I expect the demand to increase in the first quarter. And this is in fact what has happened. I checked the numbers yesterday, so that's why you see we just entered the top of the mountain, and well, as I can see it, the number is starting to decrease. That is, fewer people are open to opportunities. Now, of course, this is an average number. There's a whole lot of factors embedded in that number, but I think it's a fair indication, especially when you combine it with the knowledge from other factors. For instance, um, we have just entered a new financial year for most SAP clients. And in such a case, there are new budgets. Projects are embarking on their journey, and also we see a lot of S4HANA transformations getting kicked in. As of we speak, there's less than 4 years until the official SAP deadline for S4HANA transformations are complete, or should be completed. But as we can see, maybe 25% of all SAP clients have done that transformation until now. So we still have maybe 75% on the way or have not done anything yet. And while 4 years sounds like a lot, it's really not. And that's why we see a high pressure for S4HANA skills. People that already have an acquired experience and project knowledge that they can bring on to a new project. So S4HANA transformations are still a major driver in the market. That actually, in my view, compensates a little bit for a decline in other types of activities, because you all know what's going on. We had the Corona situation, we have war in Europe, inflation is still showing its head here and there. But so these are factors that have dampened the demand actually, but the S4HANA is actually the one driving the market right now. Now, another backdrop, another thing I would like to mention is that if you look at the people that are in the market, you guys that are consultants and managers employed, in the Danish marketplace, we are talking about approximately 6,500 people. And for a long time, we have observed that the average age of that demography is increasing, because 4 years ago it was 47 years, and now it's gone up to about 50 years. That means a whole lot of old people are exiting for retirement, and too few new skills and people are actually entering the market. And that creates a challenge at some point. Actually, there are more people leaving the SAP labor market than entering it right now. And that is true especially for, let's say, mature markets. And Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland are really, in essence, mature market. But for instance, Eastern Europe, there's still a growth. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to conduct this session today, to make you aware, those joining you from outside Denmark, that's actually a huge opportunity of working here in Denmark. And we'll touch upon that. So a lot of the questions we have received are actually centered around, so what's going on in the SAP right now, job market right now? I just touched that. What are the trends? There, in general, across the board, there's a solid demand for all areas, but especially logistics and finance. Those are the key areas in the SAP. Now, one other thing I should mention: when I joined SAP in 1996, the first thing I was told that SAP ABAP is going to decline because it's standard software. I don't see that at all. 27 years later, we are still in that situation that there's a high demand on ABAP. So this covers all areas. There are no SAP areas that are in low demand, in my opinion. Now also, let me see. Of course, a lot of the questions that we get is centered around your personal situation. So, is my salary high enough? Where do you see my skills matching market needs? And in general, it's very hard to answer those questions. So while we get those type of questions, I cannot answer them in general here. It's simply too broad a question, but we're happy to answer them individually. We do get a lot of questions along the lines of, okay, if I move to Denmark, what will that mean? What can the Danish marketplace offer? And in general, Denmark is a very stable society. There's a lot of opportunities in the SP marketplace, and as I said, especially if you have experience and are already a younger profile, then you will be able to help us fill the gap. So that means that if you're English speaking, at least, and in the younger years, you'll stand a very good chance of being considered at least for a role. And I've also received a lot of questions about, well, there's a lot of recruiters calling me, or I'm very attractive, so on. Can I now demand a higher pay? That's the question. And if you get a couple of calls a month or maybe even a week, it's maybe hard to consider, well, maybe I could demand a higher pay. It's my experience that if that's the case, you probably can. But I also see the trend that people tend to fall into what I call the attraction gap, because then you tend to think, well, then I can demand anything. And that's certainly not the case, because clients also have options. They can go elsewhere, use outsourcing partners and so on. So it's only to a certain point that you can command a higher salary. But of course, talking about salary, Denmark, and for the matter, Norway and partially Finland and Sweden, have a high standard of living. You can command a relatively high salary and have a really good life. And of course, salary is not the only thing. There's a whole support system of, how, school systems, social system, and so on. And one anecdote that I'd like to tell you is that, for instance, yesterday, I talked to a guy, has an Indian background, and he was considered, or is considered, for a specific position. And at some point, he was in the Middle East. And he said to me, Klaus, I was there for a year, and I had a salary of $15,000 per month. I had my own car, chauffeur, my rent was paid for, and so on and so forth. And still, I didn't have a life. And that just goes to show that even in the Nordics, where we have colder weather and higher taxes, some people actually prefer to stay, because the outlook for the family and for the kids are maybe a lot stronger, so to speak. So that is some of the reasons why people move here and actually decide to stay, at least for a while. So that is an important thing to be aware of. Now, let me see. Yes, some of the areas that we, in this regard, our company experience a lot of demand is, for instance, in the logistics area. And something as common, I would say, as, for instance, SD, sales and distribution skills, are in very high demand. We have a few positions right now, and the Danish resources are are booked out, and you also have to realize that once people finally get on an S4 HANA project, maybe they prefer to stay until the project is complete. So there may be a lot of resources in the market, but it's still not enough, and they are sort of frozen until they are done with that project. So that's one area where we need a lot of resources. Also, the basis area is very popular because a lot of the S4 HANA transformations will include a move from a hosted situation to a cloud-based solution, and all the opportunities and challenges in that regard need to be handled as well. So the SAP basis area is also, in our regard, very, very high in demand. So, of course, in this situation, I cannot provide all the details. On the AMA page that we talked about, you can see the link down below where you can get the instructions for the questions. You'll be able to see the links to the materials that I've talked about and I have commented on in this session. I wonder if we have any questions, Jesper? Okie doke. So I'll take one from the list that we get occasionally. One of the things that people ask is also, okay, I join a Danish company, and the pension is paid by the Danish employer. That's usually between 8 to 12%. That's the average on top of your monthly fixed salary. And what, of course, is important to know that you don't see that money while you accrue them working in Denmark. But once you leave Denmark, you can bring them with you. Of course, it's your money. It can be invested in everything. But of course, you can bring them with you for retirement or for whatever purpose. Of course, less the tax. Nobody can avoid taxes, but that's an important thing. I mean, in general, we're happy to provide details about what's a total compensation package going to look like. We do not provide tax advice or anything in that regard. Most of the larger companies that we have as clients actually have that as a part of their service. We just recently relocated 2 people from Stockholm to Denmark, people with international background, and our client has been able to handle that situation itself. Yes, one thing though I would like to mention is Denmark is a relatively small labor market, but there are some adjacent areas like Germany and Sweden. We see a lot of traffic across the borders. We have helped people relocate from the United States, from Germany, from Sweden, and also in some cases the other way around. In fact, that's one of the cases we had for Switzerland. So, okay, that's a question. How is the current rate for freelance in the Nordic evolving? Okay, that's great. Okay, so the question is, usually I've actually mostly been talking about perm positions, but now the question is regarding, okay, of the 6,500 in the Danish labor market, approximately 500 of them, are freelancers, and they are of course either associated with companies like us or they work directly with clients. I said in my November presentation that the number of inbound calls to us had increased at that time, and for me that is a clear indication that the number of freelancers that are idle, that are looking for new assignments, had gone up, and it's still on a high level. And we're actually solving one specific right now. We evaluate and see that there are a lot of people in the market right now. I said back in November that I expected the demand in general for skills to rise in the first quarter. So that means that we expect that the demand to increase, and that of course has an impact on the rate. I see that for the last, let's say, 3-4 years, it's been a very good market for freelancers. I still see it on a high level, but for selective skills. If you bring S4HANA knowledge to the table, if that's what you can offer, then chances are that you can either keep or maybe even increase your rate. But there are areas where I don't see that's the case. So in general, except for S4HANA, I think the rate is stable, but also maybe declining a little bit right now. But as I said, since the demand I think will be going up, I think that will be has to be observed that. But in general, for non-S4HANA skills, it has been going down in maybe the last half a year or so. So that's one thing. What's the ratio when you recruit between permanent positions and freelance positions? We mostly place people for perm positions. Lately, actually, the number of requests for freelancers has gone up, and I think that is also reflects the situation that clients want some skills, they want some knowledge, but they maybe don't want people to hire them permanently. In our case, the majority absolutely is for perm positions. So that's obviously is where we think we have the strongest hold on the market. Yes, and I think I would just, there's a couple of other questions coming, but one of the things that I'd like to continue here is checking out this part, because one of the benefits of being in the market for such a long time is that you can build a picture of who is in the marketplace. We actually created a map of SAP clients, the ones engaging, hiring, either on a project basis or for perm positions. On this map, you can see the address there. It's on our website. And what we do see is that there's a small increase every year in new SAP clients of all, but it's still a stable number. There's not a whole lot of clients leaving the SAP market, but there's also not a whole lot coming into the market. So this is a great way to create an overview of what's going on in the marketplace. You can of course visit their websites, or you can ask us. The key situation for working with a recruiting company is, for instance, if you're outside Denmark, is we know the market very well. We know sort of what type of package to expect. We know what's going on. So if you want to know, please feel free to reach out. Cool. Then let's see. Yes. One thing about number of a little comment. There was a question about the number of new projects versus S4HANA projects, and what I do see is that there are actually some, but less than 5 new projects in the Danish marketplace, because SAP is selling a lot of licenses, of course, a lot related to S4HANA, but also a lot of new clients are starting. And but the majority of new projects are in the upgrade category, because that is sort of what's on to-do list for the most clients. So there's not a whole lot of greenfield projects, but there are. In the S4HANA space, we see most clients doing so-called brownfield transformations or upgrades, and less greenfield, and that I think has to do with the assessment of risks and everything. So, but even if it's a brownfield, or as they call it, lift and shift, we do see it tends to be larger than clients think. So I think clients generally underestimate the amount of skills and resources that they're going to need, and they certainly underestimate the timing, because they might be ready for the project now, but so is everyone else. So that's something to be aware about. The question is, so I mentioned before that the age demographics is skewed towards the older population, like myself. And in fact, if the average age is 50, then there must be a lot of people in the range from 55 to 65. And that's indeed true. Now, in general, if you have the skills in demand, if you have and they are up to date, if they're relevant to the market, then age in general does not matter. I know some of you may say, well, I tried this and that and I'm still not getting an employment. That may very well be, but the case is that in general, if you're 60, people will take you if you have the relevant skills. That's just important to know. So I don't see it as a challenge. If you have a challenge in that regard, I'd like to hear from you. But the oldest we have recruited was 64, and I even know some people that work still as SAP consultants in their 70s. So, all right. Then the question is, what's the number of norm working from home in Denmark? Well, prior to COVID, it was the exception. Still workable, but it was the exception. Since COVID, it seems that the number of home days has stabilized on 2. That means most corporations, most employers give you 2 days at home by default. Now, of course, that's the average. It can deviate. There can be certain situations where you can, but that's the average. We do see people that work entirely remotely, but that's more like personal preference. So, do you see an impact on the move to cloud on the market? Yes. The cloud and RISE is something that hasn't had a lot of impact until now, but a lot of clients are moving their workloads, SAP works, to the cloud on Amazon, Azure, Google, or whoever. And that is, as the question goes, a part of the RISE program of SAP. The important thing to know about that thing is that when you move your workload to the cloud, you have a whole lot of other options. So the world opens typically towards AI integration, artificial intelligence. So I've been hammering on that drum for a long time, especially because also the videos I made last year. Get ready for AI. Get ready, because there might not be job ads right now asking for AI skills, but you might just as well be ready for it. At the SAP Insider Conference, we saw SAP popping up with new functionality. It just keeps sliding into the project. So the impact will be that SAP will be still a larger part of a more integrated solution going forward. What are new age skills required for an SAP functional consultant? I would say that just along the lines of the question that I answered just prior to this one, I think it would be wise to study the impact of AI in your particular area. For instance, financials. You can be damn sure that there are a lot of third-party integrations being ready to tap into the huge source of financial data there. So if you have your baseline covered as an SAP consultant, if you know your stuff, Then I would look towards integration of other solutions, in this case AI. That would be, you cannot waste your time in that regard. In fact, you could get ahead if you spend the time and effort doing so. So that is in general. There's other new areas, but I would say if one mention should be done, it should be AI. Okay. Then the question is, how do you see the area of asset management? Asset management is, to be quite honest, not something that it's there. It's a classic SAP area. In my view, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but asset management in itself has not undergone a huge change in a few years. So I don't see a lot in that regard. I think I haven't seen a decline. I haven't seen a growth. I would say it's more like a stable demand, stable situation. Not much going on there. I am trying to think when the last requirement we had. It was some time ago for asset management resources, but doesn't mean that it isn't out there. I'm just saying. Okay. Yes. Did I miss any questions at this point in time? All right. There's a lot more to deal with. Most of the answers we give are, of course, in a one-on-one situation, and we'll be happy to do so. We just thought it was fruitful to share some general insights to the marketplace. And as I said, in the beginning, I feel that the market is bouncing back a little bit. Not that it has been weak, but the demand is increasing, especially because it's a new calendar year and new budgets. So I expect that to continue, but we still have a lot of uncertainty in the world. And I know that the German marketplace is suffering a little bit more, Sweden also, but at least Denmark and Norway are still doing fine. And even if Sweden is a little bit under pressure in the Nordic market, we still see a high demand for SAP professionals. I've been an end user for over 2 years on EWM, TM, and so, of course, now what? Yes, one of the areas that I have been very adamant about the last couple of years has been EWM, Extended Warehouse Management. And for a long time, that market has been underserved. Consultancy companies found out and brought a lot of resources to Denmark. And so now there's a better balance between demand and supply. EWM is still for very few compared to the larger amount of SAP clients. I would say that if you're interested in working more with EWM and transportation management, it pays to check the map together with us who run these solutions. Keep an eye on LinkedIn. In general, you probably have a reason why you asked that question, and I'll be happy to provide a one-to-one answer pertinent to your specific situation. But yeah, so that I think requires a more personal interaction, and feel free to reach out if you want to do that. All right, so we have actually passed the half hour. I just wanted to give a little closing words here. Thank you for attending. We intend to do more of these sessions going forward, probably more targeted towards specific areas, so we can get even closer to, because the SAP market is a huge market for sure. But I hope to have conveyed that it's a strong market, and it will continue to be so, in my view, for a long time, unless the whole S4HANA thing is being postponed in the long run. Follow us on LinkedIn. I included the address here. We also have a YouTube channel where we put the videos that we make, usually short format videos, just to give you tips and tricks for your career, maybe on information about specific jobs. But if you have any feedback, any topics you'd like to have covered, please don't hesitate to reach out. And of course, as I mentioned numerous times, please reach out to us in person. We have included our contact information here and on the Ask Me Anything AMA page on prosapia.net. So just feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or if you're considering a career in Denmark. Denmark is going to need it the next years. So if not right now, then maybe later this year, or who knows. Please feel free to reach out. I think those were the words from my side. I thank you for your participation. Wish you good luck out there. Take care.